Hello everyone. Today's webinar will be related with signals and to the topic of fuel pressure regulators, yes, and emulators.
That's right, that's right. We have many questions. You have problems with the fuel pressure of the petrol when you just install the gas system and you're trying to set the proper make the settings of the gas system, and after the installation, when you are trying to make some kilometers in the car, sometimes appear the check engine related to the
fuel pressure.
That's right. If this situation will happen, that means you need to use additional equipment, additional device to emulate the pressure sensor, fuel pressure sensor, right?
Exactly. And sometimes you will not receive the problem with the check light on the dashboard. Yes, there will be no error.
Yes,
but you can meet situation when the petrol issue is starting adapting because the fuel pressure is going up. So after some while, sometimes it's 100, sometimes 500 of the kilometers driving, you will meet the situation when you will switch the fuel from the LPG or CNG to the petrol, and driving conditions will be rough. Yes, the engine will be running unstable. You will feel some jerks, or you will feel some just lose of power. In these conditions, of course, the first what you should to do, it should connect the RBD tester, read the parameters, and find out if there is a fuel pressure on the list. If it's available, it means that in these conditions you need to use the fuel pressure emulator. Depends on what kind of engine it is. We do prefer to use FPEA emulator when it's most suitable for all applications like the old one was used. I mean the Volvo dedicated with the V letter, or yes, GM dedicated. In all of these cars you can use FPEA and the letter the A at the end of the name of this emulator. It means that it's kind of adaptive. Yes, it's working in automatical way. And in situations when you are calling or writing to support the connections of these emulators, we are meeting mainly with finding the signals on engines, on signals on the petrol ECU in relation to connection of the fuel.
That's right, that's right. And all the connections, the type of the connections or the diagram, the electric diagram, you can all this connection you can find in our manuals, right?
Exactly.
That's right. It's because we are talking about the FPEA emulator, but you need to know that it's one type, but you can find this emulator like an external,
like an old one solution like GM and the V letter, like external that you can use in a GoFast or QBox Basic.
That's right.
Or you can use it boiled in, and the build one FPEA in QMax Plus.
QMax Plus, that's right.
There is a small differences between the connections.
That's right, and that differences you can find out in
manual.
Our
so
manual in diagram.
We're talking about, and you will see it on the screen. So we'll add that in doing our speaking. And the difference is?
Yes, the difference is in the number of connections, let's say, right? Because in general, you need to connect two signals. The signal from the fuel pressure sensor that this sensor is located usually in the rail, in common rail of the petrol
rail,
yes, rail, that's right. Or and the second one is the signal that is steering the fuel pump.
Exactly.
Right?
This is the second signal.
This is the second signal. So if you want to use external device, external FPEA emulator, or you want to use the built-in one in the QMax Plus, you need to connect those two signals, right? When we are talking about the external device, there is also connection of the another connection, right? That you need to connect is the signal that FPEA needs to know if the car is working on petrol or if working on gas, LPG and CNG, right? So you need to connect the electro-valve signal.
Exactly.
That's right. In the QMax Plus, you do not need to connect this signal because it's already connected.
Yes,
right.
It's the FPEA. It's taking on the signals in relation to the electro-valve from QMax directly. That's also the power supply and the ground.
The ground, right?
It's integrated. Yes.
That's right.
In the system.
And Marcin, when we are talking about the diagrams of the connection, I need to mention that for the FPEA and the QMax Plus manuals, in those manuals you can also find the connection of FPEA emulator, right? There is a table of the cars, the list of the car, where to connect and how to connect, right?
Which pins, but still there is some doubt. Sometimes there is some doubt which one of the solution is dedicated for such a car, because even you can find one engine. Sometimes there is some doubts in relation which kind of version it is. Yes, that's why
right.
You should to choose proper one, and we want to show you on the car how to find out. So let's see the diagram and about the fuel pressure sensor. Yes, the first. So we can meet the 3-wire sensor.
That's right.
And in the 3-wire sensor, this is absolutely clear because there is a voltage, there is a ground, and there is a signal. Yes,
right.
And of course, signal is the one of that we are interested in.
That's right. That's
right. And we are meeting sometimes the 4 pins sensors. Then additional one sensor is the temperature sensor. Yes, so we should to measure and find out the voltage. We should find out the ground, and the 2 outputs will be a voltage. Yes, so one of them will be a pressure, and second it's a temperature. How to find out which one it's pressure? That's what we are interested in. So this pressure signal, after we switch on the engine, this voltage should appear. Usually it's from 1 volt to 2.5 volts. And if we raise up the RPM of the engine, even on idle, this voltage should change. It should change 0.2, 0.3, or even more. Yes, it's constantly changing. It means not stable, it's variable. And the other voltage, yes, the temperature voltage, if you measure the voltage, it will be stable. It will be stable if you take a measurement using multimeter. The voltage can change after a few 5 seconds, but it will be changing very slowly. It don't need to be changed, but it can be stable. But the pressure signal will be changing and will be variable depending on the RPM of an engine. If you raise up the RPM, then hold down back to idle, the voltage should change.
That's right, that's right. And this is the quite simple to find out that proper cable, because you can use the simple multimeter that measure the voltage, right? So if you find out that cable with the fuel pressure signal, according to our diagrams, this is the cable that you need to cut, right? And you need to connect our 2 cables from our emulators, right? Yellow and green cable. This is the fuel pressure sensor that's located on the rail.
Okay, and another one signal. If in case of there is a variable pressure, it's a signal to the petrol pump. Yes, steering. And this signal. It's not easy to find out without the oscilloscope tool. That's why we should inform you that this is a very necessary tool for a modern workshop. If you want to convert the cars around 2007 and 2008 or earlier productions, yes,
new cars,
the oscilloscope tool is very useful in kind of this. And there is like a 2 base steps for equip the workshop, yes? And we want to show you these 2 tools. One of them is a USB cheap one, but very useful tool, and another one is Regal, more complicated. Let us see how they look like, Tomasz.
That's right, that's right. So on the left side you have the oscilloscope, Regal oscilloscope. It's a little bit more expensive equipment. It's around
250 or more, yes, or more.
250, 300
euros.
Euros. That's right. So this is the one of the type of the oscilloscope, and the second one, as you can see right here, it's cheaper oscilloscope because you can find it for 100, even less
than 100
less than 100 euros, right? We can see the difference in the dimensions of the oscilloscope. This is the typical oscilloscope that you use in the workshop, stable in the workshop, but this is we can say the mobile version. Okay, mobile version, I mean, it's very easy to transport if you want to check what is happening with the car, that the car is not in the workshop.
Just the mobile conditions.
That's right.
It's easier to use.
That's right. So you are using the USB cable. You connect to the computer, to the laptop. There is a dedicated software included with the box of the oscilloscope, so you don't need to pay for the additional software. This is a typical oscilloscope with two outputs. You can connect two probes. It's we think it's enough for the.
It's more it's inputs.
Yes. Sorry, inputs. Right, right. So you can connect two probes here in this type of the oscilloscope. We think it's enough for the measurement in the workshop, right? There are also oscilloscopes with more than two inputs, 3, 4.
Exactly.
But when we are talking about the fuel pressure sensor, it's oscilloscope with two inputs. It's enough.
And then this system is already set down. It means that the oscilloscope is connected to the signal of the steering pump of this car. Yes, it's a PWM signal. Also, this car is with this engine is included in the manual, but in some markets we can meet the different spinology of the petrol ECU, and then you're having confused in this which one to use. So you choose one pin or second one pin,
right?
Connect the oscilloscope and see how the signal looks like. So what we should do? We should connect the signal and start the engine. Right. And then we will show you how the proper signal looks like and what it should happening with the signal during the engine is running on idle and or the rise up the RPM. So what we should do now, I will start the engine. You will start meanwhile the ventilation system, okay? And then we will show you how it looks like. So we are disappearing for a little bit time.
Okay. So right now, Marcin just started the engine. As you can see on the oscilloscope on the screen, there is a signal, right? There is the square type signal, let's say, with the constant amplitude. When the Marcin will be changing the RPM of the engine, will be changing the load of the engine, you will see that in this type of the signal, the steering pump, fuel pump signal, the amplitude will not change. This is the problem when you are trying to measure that signal with typical multimeter. With the typical multimeter is measuring the amplitude of the signal. So in the multimeter, even if you are changing the RPM or load of the engine, the steering signal, fuel pump signal, the amplitude of this signal will not change. Only what will be changing is only the width of the impulse. This is the main situation, the main problem. That's why you need to use oscilloscope. Now, Marcin, let's start with the RPM. Rising the RPM. As you can see, in the width of the pulses is changing according to the changes of RPM of the load of the engine. Once again, okay. So this is how to check the proper signal, right? So you have the square type signal, amplitude is constant, only width of the impulse is changing when you change the RPM. Okay. Okay, so this is the example. This is the example of the signal of steering signal of the.
Turn off the
okay.
way.
Steering of signal of the steering signal of fuel pump. So right now, if you already located signal from the fuel pressure sensor using typical multimeter, and then you located properly the signal from the steering pump, that means you can connect FPEA emulator and set it properly.
Yes, that if we are sure about these two signals are properly connected, so what we should do, we should calibrate the system. And in relation to the QMax connected, the integrally FPEA emulator, we will just show you how the calibration looks like. In the case of the external emulator, it's in manual, so we will show you in the manual how it looks like. That will add it to the webinar and explain it how it's work like. And briefly, the engine should just have the working temperature. It means that the temperature should be around 80 to 90 degrees.
Right.
Then these conditions are good to start the calibration of the system. And back into the oscilloscope, again, of course, each oscilloscope has own manual, so we will not focus about explanations how to set the oscilloscope, because it will be too more complicated and it will be unuseful if we use other applications than this. But the main rules are quite similar. So don't forget to equip your workshop in oscilloscope. In case of these engines, of course, in case of the STAG 400 engines.
That's right, the
very
DPI
engines. Yes, DPI engines. This tool is necessary. Yes, for the next month. Yes, it's just necessary.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, so we will now switch to the QMax, connect to the QMax, start the engine, and show you how the calibration works. Next step.
Okay, so I'm going to start once again engine. Just check, Marcin, check the connection with the laptop, and we switch to the laptop.
Okay, Tomasz, start the engine. So at the next stage, we are connected with the application. As you see, we have calibration in the advanced settings. Then we should proceed the status. So we start the calibration. The effect is waiting to stop the engine. Okay, Tomasz, stop the engine. Then we should start the engine. The calibration is proceeded. Before we start, there should be choose the proper variable or the stable pressure emulation. So what we should do, we should check the OBD readings if the petrol pressure is stable or is changing during the drive. We can use external OBD tester, or we can use the OBD tester, OBD reader, excuse me, included in the application. And they'll be on the list FPR, yes, pressure. If it's variable, we choose variable. If it's stable, we choose constants, yes, in this case. And as you see, the process is going on. We are working on petrol now mode, and then you can see the petrol emulated and petrol real pressure. This is a voltage from the pressure sensor. Of course, during calibration, both are similar because still there is no emulation. And the process of calibration, the FPE, it should take around 2 to 3 minutes. And as you see, the process at the end will be 100, and the end result will be confirmed here that the emulator is calibrated properly.
That's right. I just want to mention that Marcin was presenting the values here, the real petrol emulated values, this voltage.
Yeah.
Okay, when we are here in this place, there are situations many times when we received the oscilloscope file from the QMax controller with the issues of calibration of fuel pressure emulator. We can see that here sometimes the voltage shows in the oscilloscope 5 volts. This is the typical problem or mistake during the physical connection of the fuel pressure emulator. If you can see the 5 volts here in this petrol emulator to petrol real field, right? That means that you connected supply. That's,
yes, the
that's
power
right.
supply.
The power supply.
You just connect the wrong wire.
Wrong wire.
Sensor,
that's right.
On the
that's right.
Sensor. As you can see on this car, the calibration of FPE was successfully. So we have comments status and successfully. We should make a test drive on LPG or CNG gas and see that the system should work properly. In case you will meet some errors, you will meet some unstable walking, sometimes it's needed to recalibrate again. Yes, so just calibrate it, stop the engine, start the engine, and make it again.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
If you are still meeting a problem, it means that high probably you didn't connect properly the pressure steering to the fuel pump, not the pressure but the steering for the fuel pump. You can save the settings and send the file to technical support. Then we will verify the settings and inform you what is the issue. If you want to don't have an issue in connections, use the oscilloscope to confirm the signals, and that will be done properly.
That's right. We have all the connections in our manual, but as you know, there are many new cars on the market. It's not possible to test it every car that is on the market. That's why the oscilloscope, this equipment is very useful to diagnose the problem. Right? Problem can appear, right?
In relation to the fuel pressure emulator, FPEA, that's gonna be the most important things that we said already. In case that still you have some questions in this quote, please do not hesitate, write email or contact using our YouTube or Facebook profile. Use email please STAG at stag.pl. The next topic in the next webinar, it will be related with the oscilloscope tool also, and the product will be.
You will see which product it will be, but I'm sure that that will be very interested meeting, because this product is usually is used not only according to the LPG system, but especially with the CNG installation all of the world. So you will see what will gonna happen in the next webinar, and we would like to invite you to that webinar, right?
Okay, thank you for your attention. See you next time. It was nice.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.